Hello, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. Legal tender status removed. At least in Canada, for a certain series of notes that circulate or have circulated in the past, not as much anymore, the Canadian government is proposing a budget for 2018, and this article sent to us by Mateo Man, who lives in Canada. Quite interesting indeed. The Bank of Canada today, back on February 28th, 27th, published additional information on the federal government's 2018 budget initiative to seek the authority to remove legal tender status from Canadian banknotes. Sounds pretty scary there. Having the authority to remove legal tender status from banknotes would match the authority of the government currently has for coins issued by the Royal Canadian Mint. That's kind of a confusing statement. The Bank of Canada supports this initiative because it can help the bank ensure that banknotes used by Canadians are current, in good condition, easy to use, and difficult to counterfeit. So my guess that means that if a coin gets too messed up or worn out, then the legal status can be removed, but they can be turned in. And as stated in the budget 2018, if this power is granted by Parliament, the government's intention is to remove legal tender status from the $1, $2, $25, $500, and $1,000 banknotes. Removing legal tender status from these older notes is expected to have little impact on most Canadians, as these denominations have not been produced in decades and are rarely used in transactions. Importantly, removal of legal tender status does not mean these notes will lose their face value. The Bank of Canada will continue to honor them. If the government is granted this power, the Bank of Canada will provide clear information to Canadians on how to redeem the affected banknotes. This will involve a period during which the notes can be redeemed through the financial institutions, as Canadians can do today. After the period, the notes can be redeemed directly through the Bank of Canada. There are currently no plans to remove legal tender status from any other banknotes. And what does that mean? Does that mean that it will be illegal to use them in transactions between parties or private individuals and private institutions, businesses, or for general commerce? And that's how I interpret it, is that will be illegal to use in those transactions. But how will they police it? And if they're done, if somebody, let's say, accepts a $25 bill after this becomes the fiat, or by the government's power to remove the legal tender status, and a business accepts a $25 bill and then takes it into a bank, to the Bank of Canada, can they redeem it if it was an illegal transaction? That's the curious thing. There's another article that talks about it. The $1,000 bill, nicknamed a pinky for its reddish purple hue, will no longer be accepted as legal tender in Canada. The announcement was a detail of a 367-page budget document released yesterday. The Bank of Canada stopped printing the bill in 2000 in an effort to combat money laundering and organized crime. That's why they stopped it. And that's why we're seeing less and less cash being used. And there was talk of even doing that here in the United States with the $100 bill and even the $50 bill. Now, in an effort to crack down on counterfeiting and tax evasion, the government will allow a limited grace period for approximately 700,000 of the bills still in circulation to be exchanged. And the $1,000 bill is accompanied by the 500, the 25, the 2, and the 1, which all have ceased to be printed but could still be used. Soon that will no longer be the case for these souvenirs either. Many Canadians are not familiar with the Canadian $2 bill like this one issued in 1986. I actually have some of those. In 96, it was replaced by the coin known as the toonie. And then you have, of course, the loonie coin, which is used in Canada. But quite interesting. So back to the other one, talking about how the coins, that happens with the coins that are taken out of circulation. Typically in the United States, those coins are waffled or made so that they can't be spent. and distorted in such a way or melted down or what have you. But as long as they, are in the hands of people, no matter what condition, typically they're accepted. So it's interesting how that would work. But nonetheless, as we move more towards a cashless society, governments are just doing these things. It's causing a little bit of alarm for folks, because if they're just going to remove legal tender status from these bills, and no one really pays attention how long that grace period lasts, what's going to happen if somebody has a $500 bill that they've had? What will happen to it? I mean, will it become a collector's item? Or will it become worthless in time? I guess they can be redeemed through the Bank of Canada. Who knows? But, here in the United States, I'm not sure how it works. My guess is if you have an older $1 bill or a $500 bill, you can take those into the bank and get $500 for it to this day. But nonetheless, an interesting article. Thank you again, Mateo Man, for bringing this to my attention. Quite fascinating indeed. And I think this is another reason why it's important to stack gold and silver, because, no matter what the government does, gold and silver are going to retain value, and there's no fiat status that can be removed from them, like you can with paper. So post your thoughts below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to y'all for watching, and encourage you to please rate, comment, and subscribe.